Same smile. Same head.
So like once it's
I guess I can see
once
him.
it's done,
The smile.
Yeah.
you said it should go to my
It goes automatically.
email.
But how come you don't have no Jerry curl pictures? That's what I want to see.
Oh yeah.
Why you ain't got no pictures like that?
I have to dig deep for that.
You ain't got to be too big.
I have to go hook up with our friend Don Cornelius and see if we can find.
Let's go long. I'm gonna get that picture out.
So you on?
Yeah.
Depends on what time we get home tonight.
He'll be on in a second.
You gotta be quiet.
I mean, until I get him, you know, I need to hear him.
You
I
see
think my
him?
thing, Tom.
Yeah, she's so cute. And small, she's so small.
Can't find her a tray. That's what
She's so cute. That's when I met her, she was that small.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Doing good. Is it on the Bluetooth?
He's so cute. He's small too.
Oh, okay. I probably need to disconnect it.
Are you sending this out over like Facebook Live or YouTube or anything?
I can hardly hear you. Have me get the volume
Who is that?
good.
That's your mother? Who is this?
Okay.
Oh, that's
Come on,
not your
okay.
baby.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
No,
Let me get my headphones.
Bluetooth back
These are some
on.
of our baskets. But did you see that last time?
Mm-hmm. You guys look the same. Even now the hair, I've seen the hair. Like you with that same style.
Yeah, now. Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Let's see if we guess who this is.
It's hey.
The one and only.
Where's Omega?
Right here.
She's like, well, no, she's not.
Omega.
She's one of the other grandma.
She's starting to change in the way she looks, and she's gonna be so cute when she get older.
She's like the other grandma. I need to find a picture.
Genesis looks like Lucretia. I saw a picture
Yeah,
of
that's
Lucretia,
Lucretia.
and it's just like
Yeah, that's Creature.
they the same people.
Yeah, that's Creature.
It's not the content. It's not jungle.
All right.
How you do that?
Does that sound better?
The cartoon.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on app.
I'm setting up my speaker
Okay.
so I can hear it.
All right.
Connect.
Hold on.
What type of app is that? What's in that app?
I'll show it to you later.
They're not
Because
connecting.
do you know? Are you friends with Lima Lima? She does different things where she's talking about like different
Why is
like
it-
beliefs or something, and she
Oh,
puts it in the form of a cartoon. Like she'll
it
ask a
says it's
question.
connected.
That's what she does. That's what she.
Okay,
I was wondering.
there it is. Connected music. Okay. And
She
Modestly, because we don't know
Okay.
how we'll affect.
alright.
So if you can see that, that's the name of it.
Oh, okay. I think I got the volume and stuff right. Okay. So, can you hear me?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
Let me make you the host.
Now,
Okay.
William, how do I? Okay.
Go back over to.
Maybe
Omega must have
he was on mute. That's why I can't hear him.
Yeah, unmute. Make sure make sure you're not muted. He needs to unmute himself.
Okay. I think you are muted.
Yeah.
On your end.
Make sure his mic is unmuted.
I think your mic is muted.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit more about what we're doing. I mean, I can talk about the immune system, so that's not a problem. I don't know if you have a normal group that you speak to,
On the
or
computer. Why am I not sharing them on Bluetooth?
Sometimes like Bluetooth, you can't go like that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. We don't really connect very well.
does. She'll talk to you sometimes, but sometimes she's quiet. I don't know why we do that.
Okay, let's
I don't know, for a
try
reason.
now.
It's not
What would
like
the
like that.
volume be for this?
After all.
Just for you?
No, just period, because I can't really
Go to your-
hear them that good.
Go
I
ahead.
hear you very well though.
To
Someone said, me.
your system, you're using Realtek audio. Make sure you're using the system's audio settings. Go there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the bigger kids.
You're up.
And I'm trying to figure out how to
Everything is up. That one needs to go up.
Oh, that's why I
So
can't
I'm trying
hear.
to figure out how to communicate.
All right, say something now.
Probably sounds good.
All right, test.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, we had the volume down.
Oh, okay.
How you doing today?
I'm doing good.
That's great. That's great. What I'm trying to do is just get people educated on what they can do to avoid getting COVID, to avoid diseases, just keeping the immune system healthy and strong.
The how to.
Yeah, the how to, the practical things that they
Okay.
can do.
All right. I have that. Now, tell me a little bit about your audience. Who are you speaking to? Is it church people? Is it everybody? Who are you speaking to?
It's everyone.
Okay.
The people I mainly told were customers.
Okay.
So that could be Christian, non. It's everyone.
Okay. Let me. But I mean, let me see what I can find here. And you do a vegan or whole food plant-based thing is what you do, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. We're good.
And it's going to be recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna put it up on YouTube after, and put it in my Facebook group.
You need to send your host a copy.
Okay.
So we need to give you some kind of outlet to send a copy to him.
Oh yeah. If you can text me your email, I can
I can put it in the chat here in a second.
Okay.
I'm cutting and pasting some stuff just so I can get just some slides that'll be helpful.
Okay.
Thing because she said they just police are asking me because they're not.
Let me send you my email address.
All right.
It's when they're gonna open.
Yep.
Corona used to be the God of the same Corona.
Yeah.
Pestilence. Something from April to May is when they celebrate her.
All right. So we can get started.
What?
We can get started.
Take it to your.
Okay.
That's not
Hold on.
All right. I'm telling a few more people that were on. Give them a chance to come on. I'm gonna make you.
She's going to be doing something where we went. And I don't believe this.
Janae.
I had a stroke. I'm cool. I had to go through it. couldn't talk. Yeah, my whole side of my face got.
Okay, well, let me leave.
What was that stuff that we was saying? And she suggested that now keep in mind I did say that. I was supposed to take the day and I took the day. But I woke up the next day, I was sleeping. And you know how you can
Are you on?
Not yet.
Okay.
My tongue is moving on its own. And so I kind of like tried to test it out. And it's like I feel like my every now and then was like getting stuck through my mouth. Well, I was just thinking of this kid. But when you let me go like walking, I was trying to
You on?
Let me get a record. Let me to participate.
Yeah, then popped up. Yeah. It's on saying it's us too.
He's waiting. So he's hosting. You ever give him that permission to host?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to let me in. Or you can change it back to you again.
Okay. How do I change it back?
So what made you
left, right click.
Yeah, I did the right click. It's not
Let me go back down to
invite.
yeah. No,
yeah,
it's not gonna do it.
but I spent that whole half day.
Contact.
Crazy. What is it? Context.
I mean, you just open up your chat. All it was showing your message, right? Next step, you want to put your
Reclaim host. Okay. We're on the host now.
So
Wait a minute.
I'm in.
Okay. Join. Okay. And then I see stars. So like how can
Mute myself.
how can I add people?
When they come in, so what you want to do is stay back and forth. You'll have to let them in once they come up, like they beep. He's the host, so you have to go to participants on his screen and admit them in.
Okay. That might be a bit.
If he doesn't, then he can just you stay.
I stay as the host. Yeah, because I don't want to have to to distract him as he's trying to talk and stuff. How can I make his screen be the main screen?
I can do that.
Okay. Okay.
Whenever you use audio, it's going to follow you. So what you do is just go back to.
How do I do?
Go up to yours.
Mm-hmm.
Click.
Like that. Mm-hmm.
You can go. You can spotlight his
I can spotlight his. Yeah. Okay. Spotlight video.
So now it stays on him.
Okay. Let me mute myself. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. I'm gonna mute myself and you can start.
All right. Just give me a thumbs up if you're ready for me to start. All right. So I'm gonna share the screen. We're gonna talk about. You gotta allow me to share the screen. We're gonna talk a bit about the immune system, and then go from there. All right. So. So you have to enable me to do host sharing. I mean screen sharing. There we go. All right. So we're gonna get right into this. We'll go through this talk, the power of the immune system in fighting COVID-19, discussing specifically things that you can do to beat the virus. We'll get right into it. This virus is obviously a powerful virus. Some background on the coronavirus is that up until very recently, we didn't have pathologic versions of this virus like we do now. Before 2000, basically, coronavirus is just called a common cold. Then SARS hit in 2002, and then MERS hit in around 2008, 2009. And we learned that something had changed. These viruses now were kind of like coming after humans and jumping from animals to humans, which is a pretty scary thought. They can be found in cats, bats, and there's a couple weird mammals that they can be found in China and other parts of the world. And so somewhere in there they jumped. But the coronavirus that we're dealing with now is COVID-19, SARS-CoV-19. It is a very contagious virus, but ironically, not as deadly as they make it out to seem. Now, it's deadly for those who it's deadly for, but there's studies that say up to 98% of people who get this virus are going to recover. And that is why we can talk about this and talk about the immune system the way we're about to, because that means that there's something you might be able to do about it. So how does it work? Well, it's a disease of inflammation. It causes acute respiratory distress syndrome. It produces a cytokine storm. In the third phase of the infectious process, you are launched into a hyperinflammatory phase. If you can understand inflammation, and you understand how to prevent and possibly treat the worst outcomes of this infection, that understanding of inflammation actually can save the day. So it is a disease of inflammation, as you see here. The last phase is stage 3, severe respiratory inflammatory stage. It's a hyperinflammatory phase where you get a cytokine storm. You can see that down in here. That cytokine storm we'll talk about more in a second. But the virus, you're responding to the virus, there's no symptoms, and a lot of people come in at stage 1 and they leave at stage 1. They don't even get symptoms. A lot of people come in at stage 2, leave at stage 2, nothing serious happens. Those people who go all the way to stage 3 that seem to get really sick. So just to give you an example, this again is a disease of inflammation. So here's the induction phase. The virus you get exposed to the virus. The T cells produce cytokines, and then the cytokines produce a storm. The endothelial cells help to do that. And one of the problems that happens, you get capillary leakage syndrome. So the endothelial cells, which line the vessels, begin to leak, which of course, if you start leaking blood out of your vessels, your organs won't hold up. And of course, the cytokine storm, you get tumor necrosis factor alpha, interferon gamma, and a bunch of hosts of other interleukins that you see here. And then bam, all of this stuff happens. Pulmonary infiltrates, lung injury, acute respiratory distress syndrome, cardiovascular shock. You get this hypercoagulation we've been hearing about, renal failure. And here's where people start to really die from this disease. So here, this is how it happens. So that's one side of this that's so scary. The other side of this that's really scary is that it comes in through the ACE2 receptors, angiotensin converting enzyme 2, plugs right into here, and that's how it gets into the cell. And so there's an anti-ACE antibody, as you can see here. And that thing gets in, and then it's a wrap after that. Once that happens, it can get into the cell. So anyone with extra ACE2 receptors, and the angiotensin converting enzyme is a part of the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, which controls your blood pressure and helps with kidney function. So here's what's interesting about this. If you're getting treated with anti-ACE drugs like lisinopril or captopril, the antibodies disrupt the interaction between the virus and the receptor. So it might actually make it worse if you're on these drugs. ARBs, angiotensin receptor blockers, or ACE, angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors. This is critical because this is one of the reasons why people with high blood pressure are getting so much worse with this disease, and why Black people particularly are really getting hit hard by this disease. So if you look at here, here's this. This is early in the disease, but look, right away, hypertension, diabetes, hyperlipidemia, coronary artery disease, renal disease, dementia, COPD, cancer, atrial fibrillation, which is when the heart quivers, and so you get more blood clots, and heart failure. And you can look at this and see that actually, there's some really serious side effects that comes from having these comorbidities if you get hit by the coronavirus. And so from that perspective, the virus does not work alone. It needs a host that has got a predisposition to lifestyle diseases. So coronavirus, COVID-19 has really disproportionately impacted African Americans. You can see here in Louisiana, African Americans are 32% of the population. They're 70% of the cases. In Illinois, at this point in April 6th, it was 15% to 42%, Michigan 14% to 41%, Chicago 30% to 69%. People are really up in arms over this, but the truth of the matter is Black people die sicker and sooner than everyone else anyway. The virus is just accelerating and highlighting the fractures that are the racial disparities of this country. And so, again, it is a lifestyle disease. What lifestyle? Well, city life is not very good for this disease. One, you're crammed into close quarters. You take public transportation, so you get the virus can travel from person to person pretty quickly. But there's other things. If you're in the cities and not out in the country, or you're up north where it's cold, here's what happens. Well, if you look at it, coronavirus, the severity correlates inversely to vitamin D levels. So someone with really good vitamin D levels is the green. Notice that if you have only a mild case of this disease, most of those people have actually very good vitamin D levels. But as the red section increases, and that's severe vitamin D deficiency, notice that you get more of those people are in the very sick categories of severe or critical. Something very important for us to understand is the importance of vitamin D. Why? Because only about 13% of Americans have the recommended levels. For Blacks, it's only like 6%. And vitamin D is crucial for your immune system to function well. It's best acquired from the sun, but if not, if you live in New York, Detroit, Chicago, and you're in an apartment building and you're indoors most of the time and it's cold all winter, might be wise to make sure you're taking a supplement to make sure you have enough vitamin D for your immune system to work properly. So this is where they start talking about, hey, how can we make these buildings COVID proof? They start talking about how Americans are leaving the cities. Isn't that interesting? And that's partly because stress. The city life is stressful, but life is stressful. So we know that stress and diet go together, and it impacts inflammation. Remember, we're talking about the immune system and how you can work with your immune system through lifestyle changes to protect yourself against this virus. What we know is that inflammation is how this virus ultimately gets everybody, the cytokine storm. If you go backwards here, diet and stress go together. You see that? And if your diet is bad and your stress levels are high, you get autonomic nervous system activity. So you're in a constant state of fight or flight. You get oxidative stress, which damages the DNA of your cells and can cause you to have mutations in your cells, which can cause cancer. And then, of course, you have NF-K beta activation. And this all pushes towards inflammation and then metabolic responses to food. What you find is that the worse your diet is, the more your stress goes up. The more your stress goes up, the worse your diet is. It just goes back and forth here, as you can see. And so what we say is that stressed is desserts spelled backwards. So once you get stressed out, you're going to want to eat more processed, sugary foods that are a combination of salt, sugar, and fat that actually is going to cause you to be even sicker. So zinc is critical. Let's talk about some of the specific ways that you can fight. This is your innate immunity. There's two branches to your immune system, the innate immunity and the adaptive immunity. And you can see that here. If you have enough zinc, your innate immunity works really well. And your PMN cells, your monocytes, macrophages all work together. Infectious agents come, they knock it out. And you can go through all of this and see all of these components. I don't need to get into that all now. What we do need to tell you is that if you don't have enough zinc, all of these things don't work. All of the red areas. So what happens when you don't have enough zinc is basically you can't stop the infectious agent the way you're supposed to. So a lot of people want to take zinc supplements, which is better probably than nothing. But what I'm going to show you is that it is the gestalt of the food. It's all of the food together that actually makes things better. Here's some foods rich in zinc. Beans, just 1 cup of garbanzo beans provides nearly 1/4 of your daily zinc needs. Green vegetables, asparagus and spinach in particular, are great vegetarian sources of zinc. Mushrooms, from shiitake to crimini to plain white mushrooms. These friendly fungi, often known as the vegetarian's meat, are great sources of zinc. Nuts are one of Mother Nature's healthiest all-around snacks, full of healthy fats, vitamins, and minerals, including zinc. And of course, when you look at high zinc nuts, it's pine nuts, pecans, almonds, walnuts, peanuts, and of course, hazelnuts. So you can get zinc there. Another great source of zinc, whole grains have zinc. 1 cup of raw oats is about 27% of the daily value of zinc. Well, the same amount of cooked brown rice is 13%. A slice of whole wheat bread is about 5%. And of course, quinoa is actually very rich in zinc as well. So that's how you get the zinc. But there's another component, not just zinc. Quercetin has antiviral, anti-inflammatory, and antioxidant properties. Chronic inflammation can escalate and result in various diseases, particularly cancer. Quercetin helps build immunity by countering the formation of excess inflammation. Remember, the coronavirus is a disease of inflammation, so you need a lot of quercetin. Quercetin does a couple things. One, it directly stops inflammation, but it does some other things. So I'll show you up here. You can see that elderberries have the most quercetin. Then there's red onions, white onions, cranberries, green hot peppers, kale, blueberries, red apples, romaine lettuce, pears, and spinach all have good amounts of quercetin. Elderberries, and there's a lot of people who say, I healed myself by doing elderberries. Elderberries, the quercetin will bring down inflammation and actually reverse aging in a sense. So it's pretty powerful stuff. But zinc and quercetin actually work together. And this is why, to me, you need to eat the whole foods, because there's compounds and things going on that we don't even understand scientifically yet. When the zinc is not going into the cell, see these ionophore complexes aren't working. Zinc needs to get into the cell. If zinc is in the cell, zinc will stop the virus from hijacking the cell. So let me back up. The virus goes into the cell, takes over the machinery of the cell, and then the virus starts to make itself. If zinc is in the cell, it's harder for it to do it. So how do you get zinc? Make sure whatever zinc you do have in your body gets in. Well, here's quercetin. See, quercetin opens up these pores and lets the zinc into the cell. So you need zinc and quercetin together, and you do that by eating a whole food, plant-based diet. Mushrooms, clinical studies show that mushrooms have benefits that range from improved cognition to weight management and lowered cancer risk. Preliminary evidence suggests that mushrooms may support healthy immune response, lower inflammation, there's inflammation again, and through interaction with the gut microbiota, improved immune cell functionality. And so when you look here, the natural bioactive compounds, natural bioactive compounds in fungi, this article says, as a potential candidates for protease inhibitors and immune modulators to apply for coronavirus. You can see that one there. Antiviral agents from fungi, diversity of mechanisms, and potential applications. And they're talking about how mushrooms make things that can help fight this virus. So here's green leafy vegetables. I could go in all day into green leafy vegetables. Remember, spinach is high in quercetin. The cruciferous vegetables like Brussels sprouts and broccoli are known to be great in fighting cancer, which is something that the immune system aids in. But all of the phytochemicals and nutrients in the broccoli and in the Brussels sprouts and in the lettuce and in the kale are all able to help fight infection. Same with nuts and seeds. We talked about how all those nuts that are rich in zinc, but there are other compounds in there and some of the healthy fats that are bound to fiber. But the little bit of fat that it'll release will help to grab some vitamins that are fat soluble, bring them into the body more easily. I'm not going to focus on those, but I will mention resveratrol is the color, that pigment that causes the pigment, the coloring of strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, dark blueberries, dark grapes. And it is very good. Resveratrol has been shown in studies to actually shorten the time that someone has a viral infection. So you want to be eating fruits, especially dark berries, because you notice you cut a blueberry in half, it doesn't turn brown. You cut a banana in half, it will turn brown. Or cut an apple. They have so much antioxidant that they don't oxidize. That's what the browning is. They don't oxidize when exposed to air like other fruits do. So very healthy, very important to eat. Another thing I want to throw in there, because we have a chef hosting this, is the power of certain spices. I won't get into many of them, but I'll mention curcumin, which comes from turmeric, which is used in curry powders. My family's Jamaican, so they eat a lot of curry. Traditionally known for its as an anti-inflammatory effects, curcumin has been shown in the last 2 decades to be a potent immunomodulator agent that can modulate the activation of T cells, B cells, macrophages, neutrophils, natural killer cells, and dendritic cells. And so you look over here, chronic disease caused by inflammation is here. Curcumin actually works here and can actually help to reverse the inflammation of chronic diseases and, of course, boost the immune system. Curcumin can also downregulate the expression of various pro-inflammatory cytokines. This is how it does it, including tumor necrosis factor, interleukin 1, 2, 6, 8, and 12, and some chemokines, most likely through inactivation of the transcription factor for NF-kappa beta cells. Interestingly, however, curcumin at low doses can also enhance antibody response. So it can actually do both sides of the immune system and help you to get a good response. And they show you that here. Curcumin comes in and blocks ROS, blocks the TNF alpha, tumor necrosis factor alpha, and stops this cascade from COX-2 down here at the bottom that would cause more inflammation. So it's a powerful, powerful health food, curcumin, that you find in turmeric curry powder. So what food should you avoid? So we talked about you need to eat plenty of leafy green vegetables, lots of fruits, especially berries, nuts, seeds, small quantities like a handful a day. Also, you should be eating, drinking lots of water, getting your sunshine, and eating mushrooms and foods rich in quercetin, as well as zinc. So what do you avoid? You have the foods that are described as pro-inflammatory, especially and including added sugars. We'll get into that here now. So the way that the white blood cell work, which do the job of getting rid of the toxin. So here's the antigen or the toxin, the virus. Let's say it's the coronavirus. The white blood cell approaches it. It opens up, it surrounds it, brings it inside. While inside, it has to kill it. Well, how does it kill it? Well, the white blood cell uses vitamin C to absorb the toxin, and then it goes again. So vitamin C, which you find in kiwi fruit and grapefruit and oranges and tangerines and many other plant sources. So what happens is the vitamin C is pulled into the cell. The white blood cell is able to destroy the maximum number of viruses and bacteria if it's 50 times the concentration. If you eat sugar, it gets into the white blood cell. It impedes the immune system. The white blood cell can only destroy 25% as many viruses and bacteria. So what I tell patients, of course, is that when you eat a Snickers bar, honey bun, any of that kind of stuff, blood sugar shoots way up, even at relatively normal blood sugar levels. What happens is the sugar gets into your cell because it kind of looks like vitamin C, or at least can use the receptors, and then it doesn't get all the way up to 50 times. And it's like the white blood cell goes to sleep for up to 6 or 8 hours. And so you don't have a good immune system after you eat those sugary foods. And in 6 or 8 hours, you're hungry again, so you eat more. But the other thing is animal products, which are very, very pro-inflammatory. And I have here beef, chicken, pork, hot dogs, cheese, eggs. I'll throw milk in there, even though obviously milk is a part of cheese. So how do you get pro-inflammatory stuff from this? TMAO, or trimethylamine oxide, is a molecule linked to cardiovascular disease, which is an inflammatory condition. And basically it happens when you eat meat, the muscle of the meat has carnitine in it. That's why it doesn't matter if it's free-ranging, healthy. At the end of the day, the carnitine in the meat found in the animal muscle tissue, which we don't need to eat because our bodies already make it. So when we eat it, our gut bacteria break it down into a molecule called TMA. That becomes TMAO. And the studies show that basically if you eat a vegan vegetarian diet and accidentally eat a piece of meat, you're not gonna make any TMAO because the bacteria to make it have not been fed, so they die off. So you balance your microbiota away from inflammation by eating a plant-based diet. That's what's really important here. And that way you don't get inflammatory. And of course, this stuff causes atherosclerotic plaques, or blocks up the blood vessels, so that you're more likely to get heart attacks and strokes down the road. Certain foods, such as meats, appear to harbor bacteria that can trigger inflammation, dead or alive, even when the food is fully cooked. There's 100 million bacteria per quarter pound of beef. The endotoxins in them do not go away, right? They stay even after you cook it or place it in acid. The saturated fat in meat products help the endotoxins cross the gut wall into the bloodstream, causing inflammation. So the endotoxins can get in and they cause inflammation. And again, if you're trying to avoid a disease that kills you through inflammation, like the coronavirus, these are foods you probably want to avoid. So I'll finish up with a few quick things here. One of the things that is important, I mentioned it earlier, is that you got to manage your stress. And there's something I talk about called the stress equation. Stress equals demands minus resources. So you've got to have the right resources, a higher power, a good family structure, because alcohol, drugs, and food don't make good resources to manage your stress. long term, they just can increase your stress. And of course, you can always bring down your demand, not always, but you can also try to bring down your demands to lower your stress as well. So just a quick Bible verse to end out. Psalm 56:3 says, "What time I am afraid, I will trust in thee. In God I will praise his word. In God I have put my trust. I will not fear what flesh can do to me." And I put this in here because we know that spirituality, religion, is a strong protector. It has its own unique benefits. And if you can trust in God, you turn things over to him, like in Alcoholics Anonymous, they talk about turning things over to their higher power. This is so that you get the stress off of you and out of your system so you can manage life better. So this is one of the kind of an overview of how the immune system and diet and nutrition can work together. Obviously, besides the sunlight, exercise, drinking lots of water, making sure you get to sleep. The immune system recharges when we sleep. If you don't sleep, your immune system never turns all the way back up. So you can't really go out there and fight the viruses or to protect yourself against cancer. So not sleeping is one of the terrible things that our society has gotten us all into, but really important that we sleep for a lot of reasons. I think with that said, I know we wanted to do some questions. I guess I'll open it up for questions and answer now.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah. I had a question. Yeah, I had an echo. Yeah, for the I think that was on the news saying that they're talking about a second wave of the virus coming in during the fall, and just want to know what would be your thoughts on that. Is it something that we could be doing like now? I mean, that was great information and very practical. So I'm just thinking, like, for a lot of times, we're out. The government is saying that it's call the coast clear, we can go out, whatever. But then there are a lot of people that are going out and they're not prepped, nutritionally or whatever. So if you have any thoughts or any comments on that?
Yeah, there has to be a second wave. The truth of the matter is we don't have a way to treat or prevent. We don't have a vaccine. They're coming faster than they thought. China's already tested 108 people for a vaccine. Oxford University in England tested 8 people. A vaccine that was safe and effective would basically stop this whole thing. It would all go away. You vaccinate everybody. So this fall, the vaccine will exist. And they may be kind of hyping everybody up to make sure everybody goes and gets the vaccine because they know there's a lot of people who aren't going to want to go get the vaccine. But what I will say is, yes, you can prep. And the prep now really is to load up on these very healthy foods in order to make sure that, we are covered from that perspective and that you have all of the phytonutrients and micronutrients in your system that you need, that you're well hydrated and all of that kind of thing. So that's all you really can do. I would not be super afraid of this virus. I think the stress that we've created around the virus is actually bad for our immune system. And we know a lot about the virus now. Like the CDC just came out this week and said, you know what, you actually can't touch things and get it as easily as we thought. So, that's good news. We also now know if you go out in the sunlight or in the humidity outside, the virus doesn't do well in those situations. So all of that is good news and all reasons why we need to, just stay vigilant because this isn't like a Sisyphean task. We'll be able to get through this. Right. We do need to hide away the people who are most at risk. So nursing home patients and persons with all of those conditions I put up, those people do need to kind of stay in a safe place.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, no problem.
There's a other question.
I have a question. My question is last week that we are
don't hear her.
Your volume is breaking up. Emmanuel, the audio is breaking up.
Okay, let me talk to him. Okay. My question is on the mask, on the face mask and things, does it help us to wear a mask? Does it help stop us from getting it, or is it just causing more problems with us having it?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. I think the masks help in a situation where you're in tight quarters, and you're with a lot of people you don't know. If everybody has on a mask, it's very difficult to transmit the virus because the virus is transmitted by droplet, so that's like in a spitball almost. When someone coughs or sneezes for the most part, or breathes really hard out, I guess. So if they have on a mask, they block most of it on their face. If you have on a mask, whatever else might get out there doesn't get into your mouth or into your nose.
Mm-hmm.
And also, of course, your eyes have to be protected, which most of the masks don't do. When I'm at work, I actually wear goggles and a mask. So yeah, the masks play a role. They can help you. Now, what's crazy to me is I see people sitting in their car by themselves wearing a mask.
Exactly.
Who you protecting yourself? Doesn't make any sense. Or out running in the sunlight. If you're outside running in the sunlight, you're not like running into people's faces. You probably don't need to wear a mask to run or ride a bicycle either. But they're shaming people on social media for jogging without masks on. But that's not really what the masks are for. The masks are for when you're in a space where you can't escape, and there's no ultraviolet rays from the sun to kill the virus. You should wear a mask.
That's what I thought. Yeah, because it's like almost like common sense. You wouldn't want to wear a mask when you're not around people or anything like that. But when you're around people that you can get it, I can see wearing it.
Yeah.
But just wearing the mask at all different times, as this is a fashion statement or something, I think you probably give yourself something by holding all the germs that you might have yourself in your body naturally. You're probably giving yourself getting sick because you're not getting the oxygen to your lungs like you need to.
Yeah, any mask someone wears they need to be sure that they can breathe well through it, or you can't wear it long and it won't do you any good anyway.
Exactly. Like I'm saying, people wearing it for long distance of times when there's no one else around. What's the purpose?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been asking myself, I see that all over the place and it cracks me up because I'm like, how in the world? I don't know what you're wearing a mask in the car by yourself for, because it does. Who's going to give it to you in the car? Who are you going to give it to in the car? So I get your point.
Yeah. Okay. That's my question.
Hey, no problem.
So someone that is sick, let's say that they have cancer or high blood pressure, diabetes, what would you suggest how to protect them, how to protect yourself around them?
If someone has a compromised immune system or any of those diseases, they do need to social distance. Those are the people who really should be kind of staying at home. They should definitely be wearing a mask that they can breathe through when they go out, and limiting contact with other people. They should also be the people who are eating tons of foods rich in quercetin, zinc, resveratrol, all of the foods that we just talked about, in order to boost their immune system and fight the virus better, making sure their zinc can get into their cells and all of that kind of stuff. So they need to make some special precautions from that perspective. The 22-year-old who's never been sick in their life, has no diagnosis, if they get the coronavirus, they may not even know they get it. Because like up to anywhere from 25 to 75% of people, depending on the study, get this virus and don't even know they have it. So again, some of the studies have shown like 98% of people who get it are going to get better. Only 2% are going to get super sick or die. So obviously, 2% of a lot of people. Don't get it twisted. When we talk about 2% of 7 billion people in the world, or even like 1 billion people, you wouldn't want to see that happen. So we've done the first steps. The second step now is to let people back out and work, understanding who it is that needs to kind of be tucked away.
Yeah. And with vitamin D, is it true that it helps the body absorb vitamin C, zinc, and all of those other minerals and vitamins.
You're asking if vitamin D helps you absorb all that other stuff? I don't know that it helps you absorb it, but it works. You know, all the vitamins kind of work synergistically. You kind of need all of them to be healthy, obviously. So vitamin D just helps to kind of empower the immune system to do what it does. That's the way vitamin D kind of works. Of course, it also regulates calcium, phosphorus in the body, so it makes your bones strong and stuff like that. But no, the vitamin D is critical, you know, and I think that's why there's this correlation between vitamin D levels and sickness in the coronavirus. All right, well, great talking to everybody. I have another talk at 5. I'll be doing a kind of a longer version of this for a group in New York. But you know, you have my email address. Send me the link, and we can talk some more. I'm glad to see people are discussing this. This is important stuff.
Appreciate you.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, no problem.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye.